Hey, did you know that the Kellogg's summer football camps are in full motion and you can claim a free day? All you've got to do is head to www.kelloggsfc.com and enter the code 7349. Terms and conditions apply, subject to availability. Podcast with me, Darren Rees. I hope you enjoyed the humongous EFL Championship preview podcast, and if you're on Patreon or Apple Podcast as a subscriber, you would have had the opportunity to listen to this before the Championship even began. This, of course, is the massive Premier League preview, one of last year's most listened to episodes. So, here we go. The 2025-2026 Premier League season is upon us. Let's have a look at it. I guess the place to start is a bit of a recap on last year's Premier League, which was of course won by Liverpool. Slot's first ever season as Liverpool manager, and what does he do? He goes and wins the Premier League. Truly remarkable. Arsenal, well, they ended up in second place with 74 points, 10 points behind Liverpool they were. Then it was Manchester City with 71 points and Chelsea in fourth with 69 points. So, they were our top four last year. Liverpool were a seriously tough team to beat last season, and they only lost 4 games all season. We'll speak about them in some more depth in a bit. So, who is in the Premier League this season then? The 2025-26 season. Starting all the way at the top in alphabetical order, let's work our way down. So, we've got AFC Bournemouth, Arsenal, who were second place last year, Aston Villa, Brentford, Brighton and Hove Albion, newly promoted Burnley, we'll have a chat about them in a mo, Chelsea, the FIFA Club World Cup winners, the FA Cup winners Crystal Palace, Everton, Fulham, newly promoted Leeds United, last year's winners Liverpool, Manchester City, Nottingham Forest, newly promoted Sunderland, Tottenham Hotspurs without Heung-min Son for the first time in a decade, West Ham United, and finally Wolverhampton Wanderers. Firstly, let's have a look at who the experts are tipping off to be the winners of the 2025-26 Premier League season, just like we did in the EFL Championship preview. So, the experts this season reckon that Liverpool could win it yet again. They're the favourites to do so. But my question to you is, could Liverpool really win back-to-back titles? Could Slot do that in his first 2 seasons? Well, they're the favourites as things stand. In second place, in terms of the favourites to win the league, are the blue side of Manchester. Manchester City, of course. That's the team that Oasis support. Oh, and I'm just sticking it out there. If there's any adults shifting Oasis tickets, please give your favourite podcaster a shout. That's me, by the way. Well, I hope it is. Anyway, the third favourite to win the Premier League this season is Arsenal. What do you think? Who do you think will win the league this year? I'll tell you my prediction at the end of this episode. I wonder if we're thinking about the same team. Like last year, let's have a look at some of the stats and facts and information from the Premier League season and see what we can work out about this season. Arsenal, last season, who finished second last year, were defensively pretty sound last season, and they had less goals scored against them than any other team, and that was 34 goals in case you were wondering. They also managed to score 69 of their own. Last season, they only lost 4 games, like the winners Liverpool. 2 of those were away and 2 of those were at home. But where they really dropped their points was by drawing games they really should have been winning. Arsenal drew 8 games away and 6 of them at home. A lot of points were lost in those games, and those draws, if they were won, could have won them the Premier League. If they can put games to bed this season, like they didn't last season when they drew the games they should have won, they really could win the league for the first time in many, many years. Right then, let's have a look at another team, shall we? And by the way, we can't look at all of them, otherwise we'll be here until next season's preview. Let's have a look at Burnley, who finished second place in the Championship last season with a whopping great 100 points. The exact same amount of points as the winners Leeds, but Leeds won it on goal difference. Last year, Burnley were defensively brilliant, having only 16 goals scored against them all season, and they went the entire season at home without being beaten. The only 2 games they lost last season were on away soil, proving that Turf Moor is a tough old place to go and win, especially when it's raining sideways at -2 on a January afternoon. Burnley have been a bit of a yo-yo club over the past few years. At times, they've been too good to be in the Championship, but no way near good enough to contend with the big dogs of the Premier League. Have things changed? Can they actually do anything different this time round? They'll certainly need to make the most of those home games and pick up those home points, and we'll have to watch to find out. Next up, let's have a look at the Club World Cup winners, Chelsea. They finished 4th in the Premier League last season, made it as far as the 4th round in both the FA Cup and the League Cup, but they did go on to win the UEFA Conference League and the FIFA Club World Cup. Last season, they scored 64 goals, but they struggled in away soil, losing 7 games and drawing 4 others. They do have a secret weapon, which is the worst kept secret in world football, and it's a player who the biggest teams on the planet want a piece of the pie of. Of course, I'm talking about Cole Palmer. But here comes the but, and it's a pretty big one. Chelsea's squad must be exhausted. They've played in the UEFA Conference League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, the Premier League, and had an entire tournament in the blazing hot sun in America, winning the Club World Cup. I've got to say, I think the first 5 to 6 matches Chelsea play in the opening part of the Premier League season will be very telling. How do you think they'll do? Next, let's talk about one of the world's biggest clubs who have had a torrid few years, and last season was quite honestly diabolical. Of course, we're talking about the red side of Manchester this time. Oasis certainly don't support them. Manchester United. Last season they finished 15th in the Premier League, their worst finish ever in the Premier League. They lost 18 matches, 9 away from home and 9 at home. They had more goals scored against them than they scored. 54 goals went past the United keeper and 44 were scored for the club. Last season, United looked a bit lost and they need to get their mojo back. The United staff have made some purchases and they'll need to be a whole lot better in every department if they're going to finish away from the relegation zone this season. Manchester United are a gigantic club supported all over the world with an enormous positive impact when it comes to football. So them doing well does more good than it does bad. But let's see what Ruben Amorim can do for the side this year. Oh, and if you haven't checked the episode I did on a United manager, I think you'd enjoy it. He has quite an interesting story. Well, that brings part 1 of the massive Premier League preview to an end. We'll be back after the break to have a look at 3 more teams and some more information. If you're listening on Patreon or Apple Podcast subscription, there won't be an ad break. For everyone else, I'll be back in a moment. Okay, next up, let's talk a newly promoted side, Sunderland, who are back in the Premier League for the first time since the 2016-17 season. Last season, in the Championship, they finished 4th and they were promoted thanks to my favourite thing about the whole league system, the playoffs, where they beat Sheffield United 2-1. Truthfully, Sunderland had an okay season. They weren't like Burnley or Leeds. They scored 58 goals but had 44 goals scored against them. And when you compare that to the 16 goals that Burnley conceded, there's clearly a bit of a challenge when it comes to their defence. Something they'll absolutely have to improve and tighten up, especially when you've got the likes of Cole Palmer or Erling Haaland flying at you. Nevertheless, Sunderland are a welcome addition back to the Premier League in my eyes. They are a huge club with a huge fan base who always create a special atmosphere. It also means that we'll get that classic derby back between Newcastle United and Sunderland. The first one of those is on December 13th, 2025. And then the next one of those in the Premier League is March 21st, 2026. A couple of classics, some mouth-watering clashes to look forward to. Welcome back, Sunderland. I can't wait to see how you do. Okay, so the penultimate team we'll look at this season in the preview is the Championship winners of last season, Leeds United. They too finished with 100 points just like Burnley, and they scored a staggering 95 goals and only suffered one home defeat all season. Leeds United were once a stable and solid Premier League top division team for quite a long time. But for quite a few years, and in recent years, they've bounced between the Premier League and the Championship. Again, being one of those clubs who have seemed too good for the Championship at times, but not quite good enough to stay afloat in the English top division. Leeds are always good value. They take a noisy crew of fans with them everywhere they go, and they sure do make the big clubs feel uncomfortable when they have a trip to Ellen Road. I'm looking forward to see how they get on this season, because they're just one of those sides you can't help but watch. Okay, lastly, I think we need to have a good old zoom in on the current champions, Liverpool. The experts have got them as favourites again. Let's have a look at a few of their figures and see why. They won the league last season, but they went out of the FA Cup early doors. However, they did make it to the final of the League Cup, where they were beaten by Newcastle. Last season, they may have scored 86 goals, which is a lot of goals in a season, but they had a fair amount of goals scored against them, 41 in total. But what Liverpool did really well last season is they dug in over and over again to make sure they got the results when it mattered. If they were 1-0 down, they really went for it. The manager made the right decisions. The players gave it everything they had. And in quite a few games where they conceded early, it didn't take them long to get back in front. They also won many games in a big way. They thrashed Spurs 5-1, then they thrashed West Ham United 5-0, and they made sure that they won the super important games. Liverpool yet again have a strong team with players who are performing out of their skin. But they also, under Slot, seem to find what they need when they need it almost every single time. And of course, this season may well mean more to them than any other season in recent times, as Liverpool and every single one of their players will be dedicating every performance with Diogo Jota in their minds. So, there's a few teams that we've had a look at, from newly promoted to nearly relegated last season, to some of the top performers of the Championship. Who do you think will win the league this season? I think Liverpool will do it again. I think there's meaning there, there's motivation there, they've got great players, a fantastic manager, and like I said about Birmingham in the EFL Championship preview, Liverpool have got momentum. You can let me know who you think will win the 25-26 Premier League in the comments on Patreon or the reply section on Spotify, or if you're really kind, you could leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and tell me there. So remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time. Oh, sorry, wrong song. I've got Oasis on my mind.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.